I got my first client, and then a few months later, I went back to them with a proper quote for the next piece of work, and I actually could not get them to pay for it. Not because the first work I did for them was bad. The work was very good, but it was because of 5 things I did before I ever sent the first invoice. And every one of them was me trying to be helpful. So if you're about to take on your first client, or you have just taken one on and something feels slightly off about the deal, then this video is for you. I'm going to go through all the 5 mistakes I did, and I'm going to tell you exactly what I'll do instead, or what I do now, because I've had to fix every one of those since that happening. Here's the thing that actually connects all 5 of them, and I did not actually see it at that time. Everything you do for free at the start becomes your ceiling and not your floor. I'm talking about your ceiling. And I know I recorded a video recently and I talked about the fact that sometimes you may have to do some free work so that you do get referrals. Know that sometimes the free work is going to work out for you. In fact, most cases it does, but it doesn't happen all the time. In this case, I actually thought I was investing. I thought, do this cheap, do this well, prove yourself, and then charge properly next time. That is not what happened. What happened is that I taught the client what I cost, and once somebody knows what you cost, if you start going up, it's not a price increase, it's just you asking them to accept a completely different number, and now you need a reason, and I did not have one. So none of these 5 are really about money. They're about what you're actually teaching someone in the first 8 weeks of them working with you. So the first mistake I did was I gave away a very free in-depth audit. Now I want to say that I do have a free AI worthiness audit on my website. That's just about 8 to 10 questions. But then when I having like a client engagement, I usually would have like very detailed audits, like very detailed questions, because that's the only way you can actually understand more about their business. And that's how you can actually like get an idea of what you're actually walking into so that you can scope it right. This is what I did. Before we agreed on anything, I did the full audit for free. I sat down, I mapped out how their work actually flowed, found where the time was going. I wrote it up properly, hours of it, and then I handed the whole thing over as a way of showing them I was very serious. And why this happens is because when you're starting out, you probably don't have any case studies. You have nothing to point at. You think, I will just show them this. I'll over deliver so hard that they cannot say no. And I want to be very fair to that instance, because the work itself is right. Looking at their processes before building anything is exactly what should actually happen before you build anything. I was not wrong about the work. I was actually wrong about just giving it away for free. And this is what actually cost me. The audit was the most valuable thing I did in that whole engagement. It is the part that needed me specifically. And I actually priced it at 0, which showed them without me ever saying it that thinking is free and only building counts. And that is a hard thing to unteach someone. And this is what I've been doing going forward. Make sure you're charging for it. Even if it's a small amount, you can charge for it, but don't make it free. And even if you decide to give it away for free, then just make sure that you are very confident that this lead is definitely going to convert to a client. And sometimes it comes down to the relationship you have with the person, right? It comes down to that kind of rapport you have. So I would say that this really is in your court. You have to decide whether you want to give out the audit for free or not. But then if you don't want to give it out for free, then feel free to charge, even if it's something small, so that people can actually place a lot of value on even the thinking you bring before the build. So it could be a separate paid scope piece of work that comes before the build, and it has its own deliverable, its own price, and it ends. And they pay for the audit, they get the audit, and then they decide whether they want the build. 3 things would actually happen when you do this, okay? You would actually get paid for your best thinking. You find out immediately whether they take you seriously, because someone who will not pay for a small price for diagnosis will not even pay a large amount for the cure. And when you propose the build, you're not guessing at what to charge, because you have spent paid time in their business. So if you truly, like I said earlier on, if you truly cannot charge for the first one, then make sure that you cap it, maybe 90 minutes, verbal findings, no written documents, give away the conversation, but do not give away the artifacts. Now, steal this line for yourself. Like, you can give away your time or your thinking, but don't give away both of them. Now, the second mistake I did was I underestimated the hours badly. And I touched on this briefly in my video about how to price your automation contracts. I'm going to link it somewhere in this video so that you can go watch it as well, regarding how you can actually price your contracts projects you get. So this is what I did. So I estimated a build and I was not lazy about it. I thought about it properly. I was still wildly wrong. And why this happened is because usually when you're starting out, you're just estimating the building, and the building is genuinely the small part. Okay, what I did not count was the back and forth to get their information, waiting on access to things, the revision after they saw it and realized that they wanted something slightly different, explaining it to the person who would actually use it, then explaining it again. And there was a thing that actually broke and needed an afternoon to actually fix it. And none of all these things I've mentioned was scope creep. That was a job. I just had not counted it in terms of what it actually cost. So my effective hourly rates collapsed, and whereas it stopped being fun because I had to do some of this work on weekends, I had to be chatting the clients when I was out with my kids. Every extra hour felt like a lot, and that is terrible headspace to be in with your first client, and they can actually feel it. So the fix with this is two things, and they are very boring, which is why nobody actually does them. One, make sure that you are tracking your actual hours on the first one, all of them, every message, every call, every 15 minutes, not to build it so that you know, okay, you cannot price your second client honestly if you never found out what the first one really cost you. Now, the second one is estimate the build and double it. I know how that sounds, but do it anyway, because you're not padding, you're actually counting the parts you forgot. And once you have real data from 2 or 3 projects, you can stop doing this until then. Just make sure you double it. And also, if doubling it makes the price feel too high to say it out loud, then that's not a sign that the price is necessarily wrong. That is just a sign that you're about to underprice again. Now, the third mistake I did was I scoped it loosely. So I ended up pricing it cheap. Now, let me explain what I did. So the scope was a conversation. It was not in a document. We agreed on the shape of it by messaging. I said a number. They said yes. And then we started. And this happened for 2 main reasons. And the second one is the most honest one. So the first one is that the written scope felt a little bit heavy and too corporate in the beginning. And mind you, I wanted to have my first client, so I didn't want to have a written scope. I didn't want to overcomplicate it. And so that ended up hurting me later on. Now, the second is that when you are not sure what the work involves, like a vague scope feels safer. So if you do not commit to the specifics, then you cannot be wrong. And that, for me, looking back, was basically backward thinking, because it's the most common version of this in the world. And so this really caused me a lot, because I didn't actually describe the work precisely in the beginning. I couldn't price it confidently. So I picked a number that felt safe, which meant that it was so low. Then Eri, could you just also do this, landed inside a scope loose enough to hold it? And I said yes every time, because I wanted to keep the client happy and I wanted them to return and become like recurring clients for me. So for this exact situation, what I do right now in terms of a fix is, like, I have it could be 1 page, not necessarily a contract. It's just a statement of work that describes everything that we've talked about in the various discovery calls, so that it outlines the list of things that need to be done, the things I need from the clients before the build can continue, every important thing that would need within that first scope of work, so that down the line, when they come and they ask for something else, you know that this is out of scope And so now this becomes a separate item that you can actually charge for. That last line I just mentioned is not a wall. It just means new work is a new conversation instead of a favor. And that's also another way you can actually get some additional revenue. And so based on what we all agree on regarding the statement of work, I end up using that to actually price the entire contract. Okay. And you would realize that you cannot price something that you cannot describe. Now that you have everything written in a document that you've all agreed on, you know what the work entails, and so you can give a more confident price as well. Now, the fourth mistake I did was I never really captured the before number. So this is what I did. I never really wrote down what any of it cost them before I touched it, not how many hours a week it took, not how long things sat waiting, not how often something got missed, nothing. And this happened because, again, I was trying to get my first client and it felt to me like it was admin work, right? And you are really excited to build and nobody tells you the before number is the deliverable, because you cannot measure improvements against a thing you never measured in the beginning. And this is what it actually cost me. So this is the one that specifically broke the second conversation. And this is why I have put it fourth instead of the first. When I went back and asked for a real price, all I had was, this is going well, and the feeling. The feelings are not the reason to pay somebody. If I had measured this in the beginning, then I'll know that, okay, in the past, this probably took your team, let's say 6 hours to do. Now it's taking you, let's say 30 minutes, right? And here's what it has actually been worth you since March. And based on that, we can do the calculations and they can actually see the real return on investment. And that will no longer be a very difficult negotiation, because this is just maths and you do not argue with maths, and they can just decide whether they want more of you or not. So the fix for this is, before you actually build anything, make sure you fill in 4 blanks. If you cannot fill them in, then you do not have a project yet. Okay, so you can check first, what is the one number this is supposed to move? What is it today? What do you expect it to be in 60 days? And how will we both check? Okay, get it in writing. It could be in an email, Notion document before you start. And it does not need to be sophisticated. You said this takes about 6 hours a week. At that moment, is that fair enough? You are not building a dashboard, you're just creating a baseline so that later you have something to actually point at. So do this and 2 things follow, right? Your price increase will now argue itself, and you have your first real case study, which is the thing that makes client number 2 dramatically easier than client number 1. Now let's talk about the last mistake I did. Okay, I became a support. What I did was I delivered, we both said great, and then it just quietly never ended. At some point it ended though. Something breaks, they message me, I fix it, or they have an idea, they hit me up, I respond, I give them ideas, a question comes up, they message me, I answer, and none of it was in the price, because I had never thought about what happens after handover. Because I built it, I felt so responsible for it. I wanted to ensure that I had a very good reputation in this space. So that extra thing that they were asking for, I didn't feel like I needed to charge them. The other thing is also because handover is a thing you actually do and you have to structure it properly, and I did not do it. I just built something and I explained it once to them via chat while they were half listening. And of course, so everything came back to me again, and there was nowhere else for it to go. And what this actually cost me was that your first client's work may never finish. They just become a small permanent task on your week, forever, for free. And it caps you because you cannot take on a 4th client when the first 3 still keep messaging you, because you'd always be drowning in messages and calls and all that. So for me, the fix here was decide what happens after handover before you start, and say it out loud in your proposal. Okay, handover is a very real step with a real time in it. Write it down for them in their words, record yourself walking it through it once so it exists without you. Then name the window. It could be, let's say, 30 days of, if it breaks, I fix it, no charge. After that, you can charge a maintenance fee. It could either be a small monthly arrangement, it could be billed. Say this at the start, okay, warmly when everyone is happy, not the 4th time they message you and then you are very annoying. So when you do this, it doesn't mean you are difficult. It's just genuinely better for them, because a system only you can touch is a system they do not own. So just look at those 5 together, everything I've talked about, whether you want to give out like free audit or you want to charge something small for it. Think about the uncounted hours, the vague scope, the no before number, endless support. Not one of those is a mistake about money. I'm not talking just about money here. Every single one is a mistake about what I taught somebody in the first few weeks of engaging with them. And by the time I wanted to change the terms were already set by me. Without me noticing, I was setting them. And here's what I would say to you if you are about to start with your first one. You're not going to lose this client by being very clear and firm about something. Okay, nobody would walk away because someone sends them a 1-page scope and asks what the current process cost them. That is not what loses clients. What loses clients is a project that quietly goes sideways because neither of you ever wrote down what it was. I will still be generous with the first client. I'll still go above and beyond. I'll just be generous with the work and not the terms, because you can always give someone more than they paid for, but you cannot unteach them what you cost. Okay, so if you are somewhere in this situation right now, tell me in the comment section below, what are some of the challenges you are facing? If you want me to be making more videos like this and not always do tutorials as well, let me know in the comment section below what kind of things you want me to talk about, and I'll make videos sharing my experience as well, and I'm going to be as transparent with you as possible. I also did notice that a lot of you who watch my videos are not subscribed to my channel. So if you are one of them, then please subscribe to my channel. Subscribing to my channel is one of the best and free ways to actually support my channel so that I can keep reaching more people. And if you were able to watch till this end, then as usual, thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.